Hello, greetings, and welcome to a mod development update video for our Azura's Coast Guild of Mages. And for those of you wondering what exactly that is, well, that's a mod that we've been working on in our behind the scenes series on Patreon. The original premise was just to build something in the Azura's Coast. That turned out to be a chapter of the Mages Guild, which then kind of became an academy of sorts, an academy for training mages. And it's kind of gotten a lot of feature creep since then. We've done a lot of landscaping, we've expanded into dungeons, it's kind of just become this whole ginormous project. We have done 2 development update videos in the past, and you'll find links to those down below. Specifically today, we are going to be taking a look at some of the landscaping that we've done, as well as a dungeon interior cell. We've got a dungeon that we're going to take a look at, and also the library for the Azura's Coast Guild of Mages, a rather large library that I built that I'm, particularly proud of because I do like big libraries. I cannot lie. But anyway, you can find links to everything down below. This is not a mod that's been released yet. I'm still working on it, so just as an FYI. This is an in-development mod, hence why it's a mod development update. But anyway, let's go ahead and just jump in-game. Alright, here we are outside the Azura's Coast Guild of Mages. You may have seen this in our last 2 development update videos. Basically, we have our main guild hall right here. We have a little barracks for the guards and the groundskeeper cottage, and this is the main complex. We haven't really done anything to actually change this since our last small development update. So, if you want to see this area in more detail, just check out those other videos. We cover everything in more detail there. And let's see. So, also the docks are right down there. The Mages Guild docks. Again, we covered that last time. We're going to go into the new areas that we've been working on since then, and in particular the Ahallaraddon Egg Mine, which is just on the other side of this hill. Like, literally just on the other side of the hill. It's extremely close to our Mages Guild, which is, why our feature creep sort of expanded to include it. Now, right away, you can start seeing some of the changes I've made here. I've done a lot of landscaping just around the Azura's Coast Guild of Mages. Just a huge amount. I kind of fell in love with these cliff pieces from overdue. You can see them right there. These terrain cliffs. Gosh, I love those. Those are absolutely fantastic. And they do help to add a bit of verticality to the terrain, which hopefully comes across alright. We do have our road signs here, so you can see that we're approaching the Ahallaraddon Egg Mine, which is that way. That goes back to the Azura's Coast Guild of Mages and the docks. And we have the Dancing Parasol Tavern right over here. This is a new addition that we covered in our last mod making video for the behind the scenes backers on Patreon. Basically, I thought it might be neat to have a little shack tavern out here. Sort of a meeting place for some of the egg miners, and maybe some of the students over at the Mages Guild. They might come down here, to grab a pint or something. It's kind of still pretty close to the Mages Guild and also the egg mine, so it's just a rustic little tavern. Oh, yes, I do love how you can see the Mages Guild tower from here. That looks pretty good. Then look at the framing, just the verticality of this scene. Oh, gosh, I do love it. I love how that looks. Now, as a note, I do want to eventually add some animated ground cover to the tops of these cliffs. You can see the texture right here. That's basically, a grassy kind of ground texture. So, I was thinking some ground cover might look nice, but I haven't quite gotten around to it just yet. And that verticality, just look at that verticality. I like how that turned out. I think this has turned out pretty great. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but this really looks nice. This is the road to the Ahallaraddon Egg Mine. Again, you can see it on the road sign. And it's just, I really like what I've done here. Again, not to brag, but this does just look pretty neat. And it's all courtesy of these cliff pieces from overdue. And of course the giant mushrooms, which just adds that, you know, that element of verticality. Alright, we're approaching the outskirts, the Ahallaraddon Egg Mine. We've got some, you know, clutter and detailing out here, you know, to kind of, you know, show signs of inhabitation, because this isn't, you know, this is an inhabited area and everything. And yes, we did add some shacks just outside of the Ahallaraddon Egg Mine. The Ahallaraddon Egg Mine is actually a egg mine from the vanilla game. It was here in vanilla Morrowind. Though it didn't really have anything to see. It had 3 generic egg miners who did not even have names, and literally nothing else. There was no loot at all. So, I mean, it was kind of just a random mine, to be honest. With no infrastructure, by the way. There was no infrastructure here, and that's one of the things that has always baffled me a bit about Bethesda. Almost none of their mines have any infrastructure to them. Like, you know, where do the miners sleep? Where do they eat? Where do they live? Like, you know, that's one of the reasons why I've kind of added this little shack settlement here. So just to go over this, this is a storage shack. This is probably going to be the mine operations office. And this will be the barracks for the miners. And you can also see they kind of have just a yard for washing their clothes, with a bunch of clotheslines, some baskets, and a barrel of water and everything. And I do think this has turned out pretty well here, like, especially with this worn down fence. And by the way, let's just open up the console menu. This is actually the XD Palisade tile set from overdue. I've sunk it down a lot to make it seem like a rundown fence. And I think that looks pretty good. You know, I'm pretty happy with how this looks in game. It's rustic, it has a lot of immersive detailing, this whole thing just looks really nice. And over here we have a guar. This is probably where they just keep a couple of guars on hand to, you know, haul carts and things. And over here, this is another thing we built in our behind the scenes videos on Patreon. This is the loading platform and crane. So the idea behind this is basically, you know, the miners take crates of eggs out of the egg mine. They bring them up here to the loading platform, and when a cart is, you know, ready to depart, or a new cart comes in, they use the crane here to lift the crates of eggs from this platform and just put it down into the cart below. I don't know if that makes a huge amount of sense. Like, maybe it would make more sense to keep the crates of eggs in the egg mine and then just directly put it on the cart, you know, take them out and put them on the cart. But, you know, this way we get some of that added verticality with the crane. And I do think, again, I think this came out pretty well. In terms of landscaping, we did expand the cliffs just all the way around the hill, and we sort of enclosed this area, so it's kind of just like its own little valley. And it kind of makes this egg mining settlement just feel like, you know, just a secluded settlement, just surrounded by hills and cliffs. And I think, you know, that feels like a pretty it feels pretty atmospheric to me, I think. I don't know about you, but I do think that this area just looks really nice. But anyway, we were going to check out the Ahallaraddon Egg Mine, so let's just, let's go hop to that. And here we are, the Ahallaraddon Egg Mine, completely built from scratch and completely replacing the original one from the vanilla game. It is... Hey, wait a minute. Hey, stop that. Stop. Hey, shoot. Go away. Stop that. Do not appreciate that. Okay, sorry. Where was I? Right, so... this is the new and improved Ahallaraddon Egg Mine. I basically didn't keep much of anything from the vanilla game. I took it all out and rebuilt it completely using the overdue egg mining tile set. And yeah, I think this turned out pretty well. Yes. Now, this interior cell is about 2,500 objects. That's actually down from what it was originally. Originally, it was around 3,000 objects, but I went through and just deleted a ton of detailing. So, the object count here is 2,500, and the FPS right here is about 15. So, yeah, there's a pretty big impact on FPS, unfortunately. Not really much more I can do about that. I've removed as much detailing as I want to remove, so I think I'm going to live with the performance impact. But anyway, yes, so the Ahallaraddon Egg Mine, in this first interior cell, this is probably going to be a 5 interior cell dungeon at the end. But in this first interior cell, we have this neat little central lake. We have a river over, a river over there, just dumping in water. A waterfall. Tons of egg nests. A central operations area for the egg miners.
There is someone watching me. I can tell.
Yeah, you're really observant, aren't you? Kind of breaking the fourth wall. Yeah, a lot of people are watching you. Anyway, what was I going to say? In the vanilla Ahallaraddon Egg Mine, there was actually an underwater segment, so, I've kind of stayed true to that by including a lake. And also, I just really wanted, I really wanted a lake, and I wanted lots of verticality. One of the great things about the egg mining tile set is that it allows for a lot of freestyle cavern design, which frees up a ton of potential for verticality. Though it also means your object count does increase rather dramatically fairly easily. But anyway, this central area right here, this is the central, hub for the egg miners. This would be the operations, central point in terms of inside the mine. You've got a dining area for the egg miners, because realistically, they're going to need to take a break to eat lunch or a snack or something. You got a barrel of water and a keg for drinks. And over here, this is where they process the actual eggs. So you'll see they bring baskets of eggs over here, and then they start, putting them into these trays. And then the trays get added into these crates. They get packed up and then sent outside and eventually loaded onto a cart and taken down to the docks. That's the basic idea. And you'll notice with each of these egg nesting areas, we also have a few empty crates and trays where the egg miners are just, packing eggs into these crates already. And yeah, there's a... oh, right. I forgot some of these explode. But yeah, I've tried to include a fair bit of detail in here, obviously. Those of you who have watched me make a mod know that I'm pretty obsessed with detailing. We also have quite a few mushrooms in here. This is another holdover, actually, from the vanilla Ahallaraddon Egg Mine. It's one of the few things that made the original Ahallaraddon Egg Mine somewhat distinct. Just the fact that you could actually find mushrooms in there. Excuse me. But I did have to delete quite a few mushrooms again to improve the frame rate. This right here, this is only half the mushrooms we had originally in the mine. I had to delete half of them to just improve performance. But I still think it turned out alright with just some great atmospheric lighting, and oh gosh, I really do just love this nest, this Kwama nest right here. This looks really great. FYI, all the mist you see in here is actually from Vapor Mist. That is an MWC mod that adds mist automatically to cavernous environments. So I did not add that. That is not, from my mod. That is just, that's from something else. You'll notice that I've created a sort of wooden pathway for the egg miners. I just thought that'd be kind of a neat emissive detail. And we do have a small rail line. This actually disappears a little bit over here. It probably goes down to the Queen's there, I think, is the idea. Though, we haven't actually, created that interior yet. But yeah, this all turned out...
But make it quick.
Again, with the unnecessary comments. Okay, right. But yeah, I think this all turned out really well, and... Oh, yeah, again, there's a bit of verticality there. Excuse me, Kwama Forger. I'm trying to showcase the mine. Thank you very much. So yeah, this door right here will eventually go down to the Queen's lair. But again, we haven't actually built that interior yet. But yeah, I think the atmosphere in here is honestly just pretty much top-notch. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. And even though we had to delete just like around 500 objects, there is still just a ton of detailing in here. Oh, and this overlook is probably one of my favorite things in this interior. Just, look at the views that you get from here. This is a place where the egg miners might, rest for a bit. There's a bedroll for them to take a nap, And it is just such a scenic overview of the egg mine. It's beautiful. And we've got this river right here, and you'll notice the different banks of the river just have different varying heights, again adding that element of verticality to everything. And, oh yes, the atmospheric lighting just... that is fantastic. Again, you'll have to forgive me for tooting my own horn a bit. I did spend about 50 to 60 development hours working on this interior, so, it's a thrill seeing it actually come to life. I mean, 50 to 60 development hours of work, 2,500 hand-placed objects, this whole thing, I think, has just come out really well, and I think it was worth all the extra time I spent on it. I really do. I kind of just actually got addicted to, working in the CS again when I was building this. Because modding can just be really, really addictive. And this was before the CSSE, by the way. So yeah, from here we can see the, the part that we came in at. And again, there's a lot of gorgeous atmosphere in here, I do say. And this actually isn't the biggest interior cell I've ever made in terms of object counts. I think the biggest is a little over 3,000. Of course, this was 3,000 before I started deleting things. And we do have the lake right here. It's not a huge lake, but you know, it's got a bit of depth to it. The lake is part of the interior cell that suffered the most from detail deletion. It was supposed to be a lot more detailed than this originally. I had to remove a lot of things, get rid of a lot of the stuff I had planned, you know, just for the sake of the frame rate. But oh, the verticality. Now that is verticality right there. That looks absolutely gorgeous. That is what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. It feels great, you know, after years of being constrained to just the vanilla cavern tile sets in vanilla Morrowind, which have a very limited potential for verticality. Being able to build a free-form cavern like this, I cannot express the sheer joy that the egg mining tile set gives me for just building verticality-inducing environments. Now, real quick, I do want to just go into flyby mode. You'll notice that we do have a lot of upper level alcoves, so a lot of these alcoves, you know, they're only accessible if you have, like, levitation or jump. So if you're, you know, playing through this, you might want to bring a few levitation potions and just kind of go exploring. There's not a huge amount up here, though, in terms of loot. I mean, there's mushrooms, there's bloat spores, you know, a few other plants, maybe a few odd bits of loot, like maybe an artifact or something, you know? You might find something like that up here. I had originally, you know, designed more alcoves, actually, to be, you know, in these upper levels, but, again, we had to make a few deletions for the sake of the frame rate, unfortunately, you know. That's the great limitation right here, is the frame rate. But in terms of gameplay, eventually we will add in unique named NPCs. Right now we only have the generic NPCs. But eventually we will have named NPCs, we'll have a few quests associated with the egg mine. This is going to be a pretty big interior cell, so... I mean, well, a pretty big, you know, egg mine, I mean. There's going to be multiple interior cells, probably about 5, probably connecting up to a couple dungeons. So you might have a few quests having to deal with, like, some, you know, ancient monstrosity, or maybe a quest to find a missing miner, or, you know, things like that. And there's a few quests that'll tie in with the Mages Guild. Like, I can imagine that, maybe like the alchemical instructor over at the Mages Guild Academy might send you down here to collect some, you know, some mushrooms. You know, there's a ton of mushrooms down here. And Data does have some unique mushrooms included in it, which, you know, those can only actually be found in mods. So, you know, that gives you a reason to actually come down here. Because you can't just find those mushrooms everywhere, you can only find them in a few select spots. But, yes, you know, I'm really happy with how this all turned out. I think this first dungeon interior cell has turned out beautifully. And we will be picking up our behind-the-scenes mod-making videos again in March, starting with a new dungeon interior cell, an extension of our egg mine, that is basically going to be sort of a mix of an egg mine and a Velothi ancestral tomb. I thought that might be kind of neat, you know. having it so that the Quama forgers and the Quama workers have maybe, delved into a Velothi ancestral tomb and started to just colonize it. Building in nests, and maybe there's, a bit of conflict there with Quama warriors, fighting some skeletons and undead spirits and that sort of thing. There's just a ton of potential with that concept, for just creative dungeon designs. But anyway, that's just that's our egg mine. So next up, we need to go check out the library up at the Mages Guild. So let's just head back. So, just going back down the road here. Again, you got to appreciate the verticality here. Those cliffs from Obdata, combined with all these giant parasol mushrooms, I think it looks fantastic. And once we add in the animated ground cover, I think it'll look even better. But anyway, so I've mentioned that this is a sort of a training academy for mages. And my idea with the questline, I do plan to have a fairly lengthy questline, is that you can come here as a student, as a new member of the Mages Guild, and basically, get a ton of quests dealing with the basics of magic. And, the various schools of magic. But then, you can also come back here later on after you've, advanced in rank a fair bit, and maybe become a teacher. Or if you come back as the Archmagister, maybe there's some, significant plot lines that you can just sort of progress about the future of the Azura's Coast Guild of Mages and the Academy here. I'm planning to have this multi-tiered quest line so that there's always something for you to come back to, and regardless of what rank you're at. Of course, that's just the plan right now. I haven't actually done any of the quest writing or development yet, so, maybe I shouldn't count my chickens before they hatch, I suppose. But anyway, this is the banquet hall. You would have seen it in a previous development update video, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time up here. We're just going to go downstairs into the library. And welcome to the Azura's Coast Guild of Mages Library. This is sort of the central hub of the entire Azura's Coast branch of the Mages Guild. It's the heart and soul of the chapter here. And yes, like I said, I do like a big library. I cannot lie. I like tons and tons of books. I mean, I'm surrounded by books in real life right now, just tons of bookcases. I love that, I love having just tons of bookcases with tons of books. So that to me, that is the coziest element that you can add to a room. And Morrowind really doesn't have any good libraries, so I wanted just a huge one for my Azura's Coast Guild of Mages. You can see we have an upper level mezzanine, where you can find snacks and drinks. This is the only place where food and drinking is allowed in the library. Don't take it down into the central stacks. The librarian will get upset. Don't do that. But the students can, they can snack up here, they can drink a bit, they can lounge around. There's a few study nooks up here, so, a few tables just covered in books, where they can just, they can study the magical arts. And again, I do think the atmosphere in here is just pretty great. We've got the Mages Guild banners right here from Obdata, and this light right here that you can see in front of me, that's actually from Ahallaraddon. So those are the lights used for the Mages Guild in Litania at Dordala. And I just thought those looked really neat, and I wanted to use them for, you know, my Mages Guild. Because I do think they just look just really fantastic. But, yeah, let's go ahead and just head down into the central stacks. So, of course, any library I was going to build was going to have a bit of verticality. After all, you know, that's what I love about a library, right? All those tall stacks of shelves that just full of books, you know, that makes a library to me. So I wanted to include that here in the Azura's Coast Guild of Mages, you know, to get that, just that effect of verticality of just books upon books upon books, you know, sort of like, you know, the realm of Hermaeus Mora, I guess, just to a degree. And Melchior Dark actually helped me with this, because originally we did have a huge issue with the FPS in here. Because, fun fact, the Morrowind game engine does not handle thousands and thousands of books particularly well. So what Melchior did is, he exported, he exported my bookcases from the construction set, imported them into Blender, and then exported them as a single object. So you'll notice that a lot of these bookcases are actually containers. You know, it improves the performance by quite a bit. But we do still have a ton of individual books right here. Like, you can see that here with the Alchemy for Beginners and all that. We do have several sections to this library. We have Alchemy, we have Magical Academia, we have History, Religion, Fiction, Poetry, and just all those other just different genres. There's a ton of different sections in the library here, just full of books. And a ton of these are actually from OData and Tamriel Data. So we've got books like the Codex Arcana, volumes 1 through, I think, 5? I don't actually know how many there are, but, you know, something like that. We got the Mages Guild Charter, obviously, the origin of the Mages Guild. A ton of books that are related to alchemy, obviously. And just, you know, so on and so forth. This has just turned out pretty nicely, I think. You will find a few just random things just stacked into the bookcases here, like this scroll right here. And we have some writing and study nooks down here for the students where they can work on their homework, or, you know, maybe craft an incantation or enchant something, or, well, there's an abacus here. Maybe they've got some math to do. I don't know. I don't know if a mage needs to do a lot of math, but, you know, they've got the tools here to do it. And because this is an academy, that's why there's, you know, multiple copies of each book. Because, you know, there's a ton of students, they need a ton of copies of the same book, you know, that makes sense, right? And we also have other containers from various modders' resources, including Danae's containers, Stavrogan's books up here, and the Wanderer's bookcase resource set. I was basically trying to use as many book containers as I could to just, you know, keep the frame rate, you know, down a bit, or up a bit. There are about 2,400 objects in here. You know, this is a rather large interior in terms of the object count. And our current FPS is about 20, I want to say, maybe 21, 22. So there is a bit of a performance impact in here, but, you know, I think it's worth it to just have all these beautiful books, honestly. It just looks great, except, wait a minute, what's that? Okay, so that's a visual glitch. These books are just a little too far into the wall. They need to be moved up about 1 or 2 units, I think. That goes to demonstrate the importance of actually playtesting in-game. Because sometimes, you don't notice those tiny visual bugs if you don't playtest your mods in-game. Like, those might not show up in the CS. Or at least not be immediately obvious, anyway. But, yeah, other than 1 or 2 small bugs, I'm not, I'm not too disappointed with this. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. And one thing I do want to point out here is that this is a custom stack. These bookcases, they are custom built. They are kit bashed out of about 60 or so objects from old data and Tamriel data. This T-bone shape and everything. Like, I custom built that in the CS. And, if you want to see me doing that, if you want to see how that was built, again, you can find the behind the scenes videos on Patreon. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this interior turned out. And hold on, wait a minute. Yeah, those books are floating, aren't they? That's okay. So yeah, that's a container. I guess that must have been a mix-up on Melchior's part when he was exporting from Blender. Maybe something got messed up there. I don't know. But we can add in maybe a narrow book underneath it, so it looks like it's actually, sitting on top of another book just underneath. That's something we'll have to do later, though, I suppose. But, that again just demonstrates the importance of playtesting. But yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the Mages Guild library. Everything looks pretty great, I think. And this library will eventually connect to the staff bedrooms, the dorms for the students, and the magical labs. But again, we haven't actually built those interiors yet. I don't know, we'll get to that probably sometime later this year. So yeah, we'll build the dorms, the staff chambers, and also the magical labs, for the various schools of magic, alchemy, enchanting, illusion, alteration, destruction, just, all those. But, anyway, I think that's just about everything. As I said, we'll be picking this series up again in March for our Patreon backers on Patreon. So if you want to actually see, I think we've got 18, 19 videos up currently for our Patreon backers of our mod making series, where we're actually, building all this in the CS. So if you want to check that out, you can sign up on Patreon at patreon.com/morrowindmodding and sign up for the $5 backer tier. That'll get you access to all of the mod making videos. But anyway, that's pretty much everything here. Again, so we'll be starting in March with a dungeon interior cell for the Ahallaraddon Egg Mine. And then after that, we'll probably pick up with interior design, probably for the dorms, or maybe for the staff chambers. And after that, maybe some of the shacks. We do have quite a few shacks that we need to get interiors for, including the ones for the Ahallaraddon Egg Mine and our Shack Tavern. So there's still quite a bit to do with the mod development here. We are nowhere near finished. I don't know if we'll even be finished this year. Because after we do all the interior design, we still have to do the quest development and, creating the NPCs, getting everything working, have actual gameplay for people to play through, that kind of thing. So this is still a long ways from been anywhere even remotely finished, but I think we've gotten a pretty good start here. And if we can just keep at it, this should turn out to be a pretty neat mod. But anyway, that's it for today's mod development update. So as always, I've been your host, Golf Guy. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, happy modding, and I'll see you all next time.